Okay, welcome to the series that we are starting on scalp health. Okay, I'm doing this series to actually break down some very important aspects of your hair and scalp, your hair health, and those different things. There's been a lot of questions about hair growth, about hair nutrition, about alopecia, shampooing, conditioning, all of the things, right? So I'm taking the time to kind of walk through different aspects again of your hair and scalp, just to kind of break it down a little bit so that you can understand when I say certain terms, when you hear certain things, and then in your own conversations about your hair, you know exactly what you are talking about and how to communicate things to other people regarding your hair. Okay. So again, we're doing a series. It's going to be probably a 5 or 6 part series on scalp health. Okay. We're going to start with the foundational stuff first. Right. And so that would be layers and structure. So that's what we're going to cover today. This presentation is going to be very quick, right? Because I don't want to give you too much information in each of these trainings. I just want to give you the information that's key to the topic and what you need to know, okay? Okay, so again, this is part one of a 6 part series, okay, having to do with your scalp health. So we're going to be breaking down some basic things that you need to know for your hair regrowth journey. And again, today we're starting with the scalp, layers, and structure. And if you are new here or if this is your first time on my channel or watching any of my videos, my name is Kendra. I am a studying herbalist, the founder of the 180 Collection. And what I do, my specialty is helping women to regrow their hair by teaching healthy mindset, healthy nutrition, and also by making natural hair growth products. Okay. My personal hair loss journey. So, what qualifies me to teach and to talk about this thing is in 2016 is when I actually started to not only notice how bad my hair loss was, but to do something about it. So, the picture that you see on the very left is underneath my wig. I used to be the lace wig queen. I pulled my wig back one day and saw that all of the hair was gone. I started using the products that I currently sell today to regrow my own hair. It took a few months, but it did happen. Unfortunately, about 3 years later, I lost all of my hair again to chemo due to going through breast cancer in 2019. So, from those two situations that are listed, I've also had hair loss from stress. I've had postpartum hair loss. I've had hair loss from traction alopecia, tight braids, tight weaves, you name it. I have experienced it. And all of that's because I didn't know better, right? So when you know better, when you have an understanding, you can actually do better. Okay. So let's jump right in. Your scalp is important, right? Just like your hair, I'm sorry, your hair is not an independent thing in and of itself. Just like your hand is part of your arm or your foot is part of your leg, your hair is part of your scalp, okay? You must remember that the scalp is skin, and its job, just like the rest of the skin on your body, is to protect you. And so I believe that knowing some basic information about your scalp and how it helps for healthy hair growth will help you understand how important it is to take care of it, right? Because a lot of us know we're supposed to take care of our scalp, but we don't really know why. And so when you know why something is important, I think that you are more motivated to stick with the thing, right? And as I stated before, as I always stated, the scalp is the foundation and essentially the birthplace for healthy hair. Okay. So a few, we're going to get into a few things. Again, this information is going to be very basic, very foundational. Okay. I'm not going to throw a whole lot of scientific terms at you. I'm just going to break it down really as simply as I can and as quickly as I can, okay? So that this video serves as a resource, right? So the layers of the scalp, I'm going to kind of walk you through the layers of the scalp and kind of explain to you the key aspects of those layers. All right. So the skin that your hair grows from essentially has three distinct layers that we're going to discuss today. All right. You have the epidermis, the dermis, and a layer of fat and connective tissue. Okay. Regardless, if you remember the names of the layers or not, it's not important. What is important to know that all three of these layers influence how well your hair grows, or if it will even grow at all, okay? So the first layer that you see highlighted here is the epidermis, okay? The epidermis is the outer layer, right? It's generally about 1 millimeter in depth. That's a little bit more than the thickness of like a credit card. So think about a thickness of a credit card. It's a little bit thicker than that. All right. Now, because the epidermis is the outer layer of your skin, it actually gets the most abuse, right? It's what's exposed to the elements. So that's even more reason why it needs to stay healthy for healthy hair growth. Okay. So one reason, as you can see from the diagram, and I don't know if my pointer is showing on here. I hope that it is. Um, but one reason that you can see from the diagram is that your scalp houses the opening of your follicle. So the hole that your hair grows out of, that is the opening of your hair follicle. Okay. So I want to clear up some terms because a lot of people use the word follicle and hair strand to mean the same thing. It is not the same thing. Your hair follicle is actually a system. I'm going to call it, it's more like a system of hair growth. Like, you know, the place that the hair growth process takes place is the follicle. Okay. It's more like an area. Um, so again, like I said, this houses the opening of your follicle, or the place where your hair strand comes out of or emerges from. All right. This is the only part of the follicle that is on the outside that can be seen with the naked eye. You cannot see your entire follicle without a microscope. You can only see the hole or the opening. Okay. And some of y'all, like me, if you got bad eyesight, you can't even see that. Okay. So again, this is why keeping your scalp clean is so important. If you think about the skin, okay, because remember, scalp is skin. If you think about the skin on the rest of your body, dirt and dead cells are brushed away, like from our clothing. When our clothes brush against our skin, the dead skin cells are brushed away, or when we take a bath or a shower. However, and if you're bathing and showering daily, that process is happening that way, right? However, your scalp skin is a little bit different. As your scalp naturally sheds, those dead skin cells usually get trapped by your hair, okay? Also, things in the environment. Why can't I talk today? Things in the environment, things in the air, residue from the products that you use, dust, pollution. Those things get in your scalp as well, right? All of these things work their way to your scalp one way or the other. And so when you think about those things, and then add in the fact that most of us don't cleanse our scalp regularly, what do you think eventually happens? You get buildup, right? So the same opening that you see here that we just talked about, it gets clogged, okay? So if that opening is clogged, then the hair cannot grow out of it, right? So again, we are going to get more into how to properly cleanse your scalp, properly cleanse that area to make sure that it's not clogged. We'll get into that in later videos. Today we are just looking at, like I said, the basic structure of your scalp. Okay. So the next layer that we're going to talk about is the dermis. Okay. So remember I said there are three layers we will discuss: the epidermis, the dermis, and then the layer of fat. So now we're on the dermis, right? This is the second layer. It's roughly 2 to 3 millimeters thick on your scalp. So this is a little bit thicker than the layer we just talked about. What's important about this layer is this is where a lot of the activity for your hair growth takes place. More importantly, this is where your sebaceous glands are located. What is a sebaceous gland, Kendra? I'm glad you asked. These glands produce sebum. Sebum is your hair and skin's natural oil. So your scalp naturally produces an oil that flows through the hair and scalp to help with healing, to fight infection, to keep your hair and scalp lubricated, right? Your hair and scalp is naturally lubricated without you doing anything. As long as everything is working properly, these glands are doing their job nonstop. However, when you neglect your scalp care routine, when you neglect basic care for your scalp, these glands stop working. And what does that lead to? Dry hair, dry scalp. Sometimes they work overtime. They go into overdrive and you end up with very oily scalp. You end up with dandruff. You end up with a lot of different scalp issues. And again, we'll get into that in later videos. Okay, so that's that. The next layer not the next layer. We're still on the dermis and the epidermis, but the next piece of this that I wanted to talk to you about is the follicle. Okay, this is if you can see from the diagram where I have follicle highlighted, look at the white part. Okay, this is the place again where most of your hair growth, or where your hair growth and reproduction take place, right? The follicle is the actual birthplace of every new hair, okay? And it's located deep within your scalp. That's why I said before, that's why I said earlier, you cannot see your follicle. You cannot see your full follicle. You can only see the opening, okay? The base of the follicle, so down here where the follicle is also the hair bulb. And it looks like my line got cut off. This is where the cells divide every 1 to 3 days to create your hair. Your hair strands is actually accumulation of cells, okay? That's all it's like. Everything else in your body is cells. As your hair follicle makes new cells, the older cells harden or keratinize, okay? And this is the protein aspect of your hair strand, and are forced upward, okay? So your hair follicle down here, the bulb is made, new cells are being made, okay? And they're just kind of stacking on top of each other. They're hardening, and then they get forced up. They get forced up and through that opening in the follicle, okay? Once your hair leaves the protection of the follicle, it is no longer living tissue, okay? Those cells are no longer alive and flourishing. It is no longer living tissue, and we call this your hair strand or the hair shaft. The part of your hair that you can see above your scalp is the hair shaft, okay? I need y'all to make sure you are looking at these terms and using them in the right way, because I've heard people talk about hair follicle when they really meant hair shaft. I've heard people talk about say hair shaft when they really meant something else, or not even know what a hair shaft is, okay? So let's keep moving. Next section. So below the dermis. So we're going a little bit deeper now into the scalp. Below the dermis is more connective tissues and also a layer of fat, okay? This is where, oh no, wait, did I miss no. Okay, we're good. The dermis is more connective tissue and accompanied by a layer of fat. Now the tiny blood vessels, I want you to take note of this. This is important. This is probably the most important, one of the most important parts of your hair growth. These tiny blood vessels that you see down here, the little red and blue lines that you see, this is where the follicle gets nourished. So when you hear people talk about nourishing your follicles from the inside, that is what we mean. So when you eat the right amount of nutrients, when you take the right supplements, when you drink enough water, when you are eating healthy and exercising, getting that circulation, that blood circulating properly, then your follicle can get the nutrients that it needs for growth. This is where that takes place, okay? So you hear people talk about stimulating the follicle for your hair growth. This is what we mean by that. The blood flow needs to be stimulated. The blood flow needs to be stimulated so that your follicle can be properly fed, so that the whole process takes place effortlessly and your hair and your scalp is not struggling to grow, or it's not growing healthy. Because you can have hair that's growing, but it's not growing healthy. Okay. So again, that's all of the layers that I'm going to talk about in this video. We are going to get deeper in the next few videos. So be sure to like if you found this information helpful. And if you think that this channel will be beneficial to your healthy hair or hair growth journey, please subscribe. To be continued until later. You can leave questions below if you have them. Again, I wanted to make this video as short as possible. Already at about 16 minutes. I really wanted to only go about 15, so I'm a little bit over. But again, thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, I would love to talk to you about all things hair regrowth. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram at the 180 Collection. I have a Facebook group called Get Your Hair Together. My email community, the Healthy Hair Tribe. You can join that. I'll leave the link below. And then, of course, my website. If you want to check out any of my all-natural hair growth products, you can visit 180hair.com. I will also leave the link below to that. All right. Again, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in for the second part of this series where we talk about properly cleansing your scalp. Until then, take care.